Welcome to the Strong Talk podcast. I am Kalle Beck, joined by my co-host Michael Battolino.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. So this is going to be a catch-up episode with just Mike and I. Like we said before, want to try to do at least one of these a month, if not more often. And instead of, I think it's great interviewing people and getting their perspectives on everything, but I think that there is something to be said to just talking about generally what's going on. I know there's some podcasts out there where they have a guest and they kind of talk about like everything that's going on, and I don't think that's fair to the guest to sit there, for
Sure.
15, 20 minutes sometimes. I'm not a fan of that. I feel like if someone's going to take an hour out of the time, you should make it all about them. But I feel like the listeners also want to hear our takes on what's happening in strongman in general, and also, some of our own advice on particular topics in the sport. So today we're going to be covering picking your first contest. And it's more than just picking your first contest, but just how to approach training for a contest in general. And, some of the thoughts and a lot of the, mistakes and common misconceptions that I'm sure we both see with our clients and just by perusing social media. So, first off, what have you been up to, Mike?
What has Mike been up to? That's a great question. Well, let's see. After Jacksonville last year, the infamous Jacksonville, as we refer to it now.
Why is it infamous? I like when people say that.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons, which have been documented on other episodes.
Yeah, look, listen to past episodes and you'll hear it mentioned almost every time. That is why it's infamous. Every time.
So I cut to 265 after that because I thought that it made a lot more sense long term, and I still think it does. I had a kind of a lousy show at the Cas, and then I had a not so great competition a couple weeks ago. I mean, honestly, it wasn't. Looking back on it, wasn't the worst competition ever, but you are your own worst enemy. I mean, I know what I'm capable of on my best day. I've had over the past couple of years, I've fractured both of my fourth metatarsals in my left and right feet. And going into the Dallas Strongest Man, I couldn't train moving events hardly at all. My foot's finally about 95%. The doctor felt like, I didn't need to get in a boot this time. I just did a Voltaren gel or whatever the generic is for inflammation and tried to not do as many moving events. But anyway, leading up to that competition, I got greedy, like some of us do, and I ended up tweaking my back a little bit, doing some deadlifts, and that kind of led to some piriformis syndrome, which I know that Kalle has dealt with, this is my first kind of experience with any sort of nerve problem, and it blows.
It's pretty horrible. I can't think of many more issues to have that, I think it takes forever to fix.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like once you have something like that, it kind of always lingers, or it's really easy to...
Oh, don't say that.
Well, you probably train a little smarter and pay a little bit more attention to rehab than I do. So maybe it won't for you. But yeah, it really sucks.
It does. And my chiropractor, we were talking a couple weeks ago, and he's like, does your right calf lock up? I was like, yeah. He's like, your internal rotators on your right side? I said, yeah. He goes, yep, that's what you have. You're right. And he was surprised because I'm still able to deadlift around 60 to 70%, which, I mean, obviously it's not what I want to be doing. But, he's like, if you can do that, then it's not all that bad. But what sucked is that, about 10 days out, I tried to kind of test out my glute and see how it felt. And I pulled 635 from 15 inches, and it was like an 11 RPE. And if you know me and you know how, and there was a question about this later, and how I peak for stuff, I normally don't pull heavy past about 3, maybe 2.5 weeks out is about my last heavy deadlift. But I wanted to see how it felt. That ended up being a mistake because I went into the competition. We had an axle clean and press first, which I'm still learning how to do jerks, and it's getting better, but it's not where it needs to be yet. So I hit 3 on the axle at 265. Not great, not awful, but honestly I expected 3 to 5. And then we did the Conan's wheel, which was 6 or 650 or something. I ended up doing 1.5 revolutions, which I hate Conan's wheel. I've always been bad at it, and I actually ended up, I think I tied for 3rd on that. So I was pretty happy with that. Then we did the we jumped into an arm over arm pull, which I was having. I wasn't squatting down, kind of in between, uh, in between pulls, because it was kind of, things were kind of tight and it wasn't really feeling that great. So that ended up being about half a second slower. I lost a bunch of points being about half a second too slow on that, which, in strongman, half a second is the difference between first and third or fourth sometimes.
Part of
But
the time.
the main issue was going to the deadlift. I don't know if you know this or not, but when you do Conan's wheel, it tends to kind of fry your hamstrings. So I started warming up on the deadlift, and I was like, this doesn't feel great. And I did my opener at 555, and it was the slowest I think I've ever pulled 555. And I decided, I said, you know what, if I can't pull, much more, if I've only got one more attempt, I'm going to go 615. I'm not even going to bother with 585 because the points difference is not going to be much. And looking back, I probably should have just gone for 585, but with how bad 615 hurt, I don't think that even would have moved either. So I pulled it off the ground a little bit, felt a lot of pain down my right side, just immediately stopped. I doubt I could have even grinded through it. Immediately stopped, kind of walked away. After about 5 minutes, my glute released, but I was like, I started packing my stuff up almost. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I don't want to be here. This is, when your best event or something that you really enjoy doing doesn't feel good, I mean, that you just, you don't want to be there. So I decided to not leave. I did the frame and sandbag medley, ended up getting second out of 9 guys, even though one of the weird things about this injury is that it kind of feels like sometimes like my right leg is like really heavy. So I feel a lot slower than I actually am, like looking at videos and whatnot. But I still kind of feel like that, that right leg is dragging behind me. But did all right. Ended up 4th out of 9th. I was like half a point or a point out of 3rd. It just wasn't a great day. And obviously, Kalle, you know this because I was talking to you the entire day, just texting back and forth. But you live and learn. I mean, I know, that this is going to take a little bit of time to recover from. I'm still planning on doing the Europa because it's a Europa in Dallas. Platinum Pluses are always a blast because there aren't as many guys. It tends to go pretty quickly. Tends to, unless there are 2 competitions at once. It doesn't go as fast. But hopefully this one will be pretty quick, and we'll see. I mean, in about, what's today, March 26th. If I'm not good in a month, I probably will bow out. But I'm pretty confident that I'll be over 90% in about a month. I jumped up about 40 pounds in the deadlift from where I was last week. Like last week I did like 360. This week I did about 400. So if I can hit about 440 this coming week or 425, something like that, slowly build back up without, I kind of have a limit of how much pain I know I should be grinding through. Like if it goes past a 5 during a set and then kind of past a 3 when I'm not doing the set, then I'll just kind of shut it down from there. But that's just me. And, I've spent a lot of years kind of knowing myself, and yeah.
Yeah, you have to learn those things, and I think my last 2 years, if year and a half, if not 2 years of like when I was real competitive in strongman was dealing with those issues, but not really addressing them or addressing them to the point where I didn't allow enough recovery to actually deal, like where the increased trauma that I'm doing from training isn't negating the going to the chiropractor, doing all the self-release, all of that kind of stuff, and just kind of limping from competition to competition and hoping that the events lined up right. And one of the things that I did, which in hindsight's silly, but when you are in that, I know how I am, at least, and I'm sure off of the Facebook status I made yesterday, just talking about how, this is a hobby, and then not understanding people that aren't all in. Is I'm saying that as someone who was 100% all in, that this is all that matters. I'm willing to just sacrifice stupid amount of things to succeed. Where I would not train deadlifts really, and then know I can do other lifts and work around if it's just doing elevated pulls that don't hurt, or Focusing even on my front squat always seemed to help, and then just pull heavy at a contest and then just be dead for like a month after. But it worked. I'd still like place high in the deadlift, or I'd be like, yes, Nationals has a car deadlift again. Not going to be hard on my back because it's not really like a deadlift.
Right.
But yeah, that only works for so long, and I can attest to that.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, so it at that time it 100% seemed like the right way to go about it, but what I probably, in hindsight's 2020, but the end result was instead of I could have probably skipped one national or one Arnold in that cycle, actually healed everything up and then been healthy enough to maybe actually win one, which was always the goal.
Yep.
It's so competitive. You can't just limp into a contest and expect to be on top. And that, all concluded when I just, did, and I think we talked about this with Triana, with Andrew Triana with a podcast that should be coming up in the future, where you can't, health is everything, is something he mentioned. And if you're not healthy, it's hard to get that performance to line up because your body doesn't know that you want to win a strongman contest.
Doesn't care.
No, it goes, this hurts. We're going to shut this down. So, yeah, it's definitely important to take that time off. And this all kind of ties into that whole, the whole topic of the day is picking your first contest and just more just being smart about how you approach contests and training in general. So we'll definitely be getting into that. But yeah, it is no fun when something is a fun thing to you and then you have a day where nothing feels right and you're like, well, this wasn't any fun. So you're like, okay, what am I actually doing here?
Yeah. No, and I have to go back and realize why that we talked about. Another thing we talked about, Triana. I definitely play the long game. I want to be doing this in 15 years. I do. I mean, I'm 31. I don't want to be competing 3 or 4 times a year in 15 years, but I want to be, over like 90% healthy. Not have like this is broken. I've had surgery on this, so that if I see a fun competition that comes along and I want to do it, or I want to train for Masters Nationals one year, that I can. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's very easy to get caught up with the today, the now. And I think I'm not talking to you specifically, but I think in general this is a thing when people go, oh, I want to do this Platinum Plus or I want to do this Nationals, and they're way overreaching. I think that can be a good goal in some extent because it forces you to get stronger, but it can also be detrimental if you're just by trying to overreach too much. You're constantly setting yourself up for failure and injury and nagging little injuries that turn into big injuries that need surgeries, and then you're in debt, and then this, and then
it's a fine line, man. It is.
It's a very fine line. And when I say stuff like this, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to be the best you can and accomplish huge goals. It's just you have to sometimes realize, is this something that's adding to my life? It's something that I enjoy. How am I going to set myself up to enjoy it? Like looking back, I think, I probably would have enjoyed just doing some of the smaller local shows. Like I know I can say flat out, there was a point where I felt I was too good to do those shows, which is ridiculous. But it's like, what really makes it more fun about having to fly across the country to do a bunch of events that I don't even think are programmed well or this or that? It's
about the people, man.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
It really is. So
that's why I like strongman. I've met some of the best people ever. And
absolutely.
So I met you.
True.
Someone made a post the other day about, it was a picture of, it was like Texas Strongest Man in 2012 or 2013. And they said, man, time flies. Almost none of these people are competing anymore. Mm-hmm. And you're like, And you look back at how those people felt at that time. They're like, I want to do this. Some of those people, I want to do this forever. This is a great sport. And some people that just kind of fall out of love with it. And some people just push so hard in such a short amount of time that they can't do it anymore. That that they're so broken after 2 or 3 years, like 2 or 3 seasons, whatever you want to call it, that they're unable to do something that they once loved, and that's exactly where I do not want to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like, and I think I fall into that category if you look at basically from 2012 to 2014. Maybe a little before that, kind of built up to that, but that would be like when I, this is the right circumstances, right? You know, I think I had a chance to beat anyone in the world at that point, whether it would happen or not at a show. I mean, in my peers, my weight class, of course, but
Yeah.
that's the feeling I had. Um, and sometimes I did, and most of the time you didn't because you keep pushing those goals. It's really hard to have that day when it is 10 other guys that are all at that level, that's sport. But by pushing so hard, it can make it so it's you can enjoy it. Like I'd like in my mind to do some strongman contests for fun, but if it's or just even simply just training that way,
Yeah, exactly.
which
Having a goal. Yeah.
but and it's just it feels like it's something that just doesn't at the specific moment in time for myself doesn't
Yep.
really, it's taking more than it's giving me, where my back hurts, this or that. But and I just have to take a couple steps back and we talk about what I've been up to, and it's just just building up an overall base. And I know I went through stretches in this where it's like, well, if I'm not going to compete, who the fuck cares if I skip this day, skip this week, eat this, eat that. And it's without having that motivating factor, it's like, well, what's it really matter anymore? And I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
So instead of getting back to, I'm going to build up to a 600-pound deadlift and all these things, which I will get back to, but I realize I have to take a couple steps back and just get used to the habit of having a structured diet with a very different lifestyle, with honestly a lot more responsibilities personally. Like when
Your
you're at
goals
a
are a lot different.
huh
Your goals are a lot different.
to some extent, but it's more like when you run a company, and especially like one that's not like doesn't have a defined role and it's very hands-on like this, it's a lot different feeling than working for someone else, clocking in, clocking out, and something you honestly don't really take pride in. It's a lot easier to let that slide than and then and then put something like your own training and et cetera as a priority versus not. So it's just finding a way for that balance again, building up a base of muscularity and conditioning again before I start attacking those heavier kind of weights and going after those goals again, because I feel like probably by sometime this winter,
Winter is coming.
yeah, I'll try to do some sort of peaking to do something cool by then. But the first block of that is just general physical fitness and strength, and just building up a base, and getting down to a fighting shape, for lack of a better words. Trying to get within try to lose probably about 10-15 pounds right now, and just look decent. Really, the goal is just to be able to post shirtless videos of training on Instagram.
Gotta get the tan back.
Yeah, I've been trying to go outside, and the way I see it, even if I am fat right now, if I'm constantly shirtless in that mind frame of I'm jacked, it'll all come.
Sure,
Does it make sense?
You'll will the muscles to grow.
Exactly. Yeah, I demand you to grow. So just doing that, have a lot of other cool things planned. But yeah, it's good. It's I'm enjoying training, and I've had this thought a lot where I have some clients that, like, maybe they're a firefighter or someone like that, where their job is very demanding, and I think strongman training leads it lends itself well to that, and been trying to develop some different kind of approaches to training and incorporating it. Like how, like, for like more of like a general kind of fitness approach using strongman training versus competing, which are two different things to some extent. So just kind of playing around with that own stuff with myself and some clients. So that's kind of the phase I'm in now. But anyways, the Arnold Australia happened last weekend?
The coolest freaking log ever.
Yeah, standard submit. The guy
Those
Mason
stuff is cool.
makes all the equipment for the Arnold Australia. I feel bad about that because, like, I think I was like right in the middle of my move, like over the summer, and
Yeah.
he was up in San Francisco, or like driving from LA to San Francisco, and that guy that made all that equipment, he wanted to meet up with me and chat, and I would have loved to talk to him, especially when someone's on the other side of the world, but just. And we planned on it. Then everything came, and my life. I was in the process of moving, and life was kind of crazy at the moment, and I had to cancel. So I still feel bad about that, and I would have liked to have talked to him. Who thinks to make Mad Max logs like that? But hopefully it'll happen sometime in the future. And and especially if where I live now, that would have been a lot easier to facilitate compared to you pretty much just jump right off the road. So this contest was 2 short weeks after the Arnold Classic.
Yeah.
And we had a couple there's a lot of competitors that dropped out right before it. I think Dimitar dropped out. I think
Dimitar did drop out. Yeah.
Adam Dirks had a slight hamstring injury going into it.
Lawless drop out.
Yeah, Lawless dropped out of it. The current Australia's Strongest Man, Rongo Keane, had some personal issues.
Yeah, only ended up with eight competitors.
Yeah, so I don't think that was a plan, but still a solid 8. We had that competed at the Arnold Classic were Brian Shaw and Mikhail Shivlikov. JF Karan, that I'm actually going in order of placings, and Ron Henley, who was supposed to be at the Arnold Classic, and there's a lot of confusion about why, because he wasn't hurt, and if you're going off the points, he did qualify, so not too sure about that. Kilkowski, well, I'll somehow learn how to spell his name, got 5th at the Arnold Australia, and he of course got 4th at the Arnold Classic. Colm Wolfe of New Zealand, Matthew Bragg, and Adam Dirks, who Adam Dirks' podcast remains in the lost files of the Strong Talk.
We're gonna get him back on though.
Every time I mention it, I know he listens, but every time I mention it, then he stopped. Then there's no DM back, and then I feel sad. So hopefully be able to talk to Adam soon. But did you have any thoughts on the contest? It was interesting. I have a couple, but I don't know exactly what you caught. And that
log, as we talked about before, is freaking awesome looking. Did Shaw end up doing 2 or 3 reps on that log? It was at least 2.
Yeah, I think
it's at 418, 190 kilos.
I think it was 3.
3? Okay. I mean, awesome looking log. Heavy yoke. Kiliskowski, he beat Shaw on that yoke, right? By a second or so?
Yeah. Kilkowski got 17:03, 500 kilo yoke for 15 meters. Shaw got 18:44, so almost a second and a half.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
man.
That's pretty heavy.
That's a heavy yoke, and Shaw outweighs him by
like 100 and odd
100 pounds. I mean, that's just incredibly. He's just incredibly impressive.
Yeah, probably close to 120 pounds or more.
And he tore his. Did he tear his quad there or?
I think when you compete in the Arnold Classic and then you do any show 2 weeks after, there's something's gonna give to some extent. But yeah, they said it seemed like he was looking really strong up to that point, and then kind of he was limping around and kind of like touching his quad, is what I heard from people at the show. So
Okay.
I don't know if it was coming in to that. I imagine, but you never know with how crazy some of these guys are, is that you wouldn't have the quad issue before sprinting with a 500 kilo yoke. But
And then Francois Caron. I always love how they pronounce his name. He was only half a point out of second, and he's all. I mean, we've talked about it before. It's very underrated.
yeah,
I didn't see a single video of JF. I didn't see anything.
from the Arnold Australia, yeah, me either.
No,
Me either.
no. And I saw a bunch of, pretty much everyone else except for him. So that was. I mean, he did well. Did you see that stone run? The world record stone run. Is there a video of that?
Yeah, it's up on startingstrongman.com.
And I am a slacker, apparently.
Yeah, I put Rano Hinlev, Estonia. The Arnold Australia featured the heaviest stone run of all time. I guess the previous record was Travis Ortemeyer did the previous heaviest one fastest in 2009. So it's been
That's
a long
It's been a
time.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was what was it? I'm going kilos. 160, 170, 180, 200, 220. So that's a 484 pound stone at the end. And 3 of the athletes finished it. They also gave like 90 seconds. So Shivlikov finished it in 61:37. JF finished it in 52:67. And Rano Hinla finished it in 42:55. So a good deal faster. And those actually, the 220 stone ends up being a new Canadian Max Atlas stone record and a new Estonian Max Atlas stone record.
Nice.
Yeah, but of course,
The best part of that, I think, is that picture of Shaw, though. That ended up being a meme when he's watching them do the run.
yeah,
It was like that feel when you skip an event because you have too many points and someone else sets the record. Because obviously Shaw could have gotten the record.
yes.
I think that's there's no question of that he was more than capable of doing it. But he does. I mean, he plays it smart. He didn't need the points and he didn't do it.
I mean, if you flew pretty much the other side of the world, you already locked up first place and the first place prize money. And you get to not have to risk before, Worlds is only very close at the end of May. And, by doing the heaviest stone run of all time, there's there's a chance you could tear a bicep or something serious. So if you're in a position where there's only 8 competitors and you're so far ahead that you're going to win no matter what, you would skip the event. And people go, and there was some discussion. I saw, people asked on like the Starting Strongman Facebook page, like, do you feel like that is a discredit to fans that, maybe went to the Arnold Australia to see someone like Shaw do stones? And my answer is that, no discredit to the other athletes competing, but if they want a better product, then you have to you have to have the means and put up the money to get the best athletes there. There was good athletes there, but there could be a bigger pool. We could have had people like Halfdoor, etc. And from what I've heard, I could be completely talking out my ass like I do a lot of time, is that the prize money is pretty much half of what it was last year.
From this Arnold Australia to the last Arnold Australia?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Which, and on top of that, now from, what behind the scenes is that the Arnolds, the athletes have to pay their own way unless they're one of the athletes that compete at the Arnold Classic. So, which, talking to some people from the past, is that if you went to like the Arnold Australia, they paid your flight and put you up, because that, in my opinion, is how a professional athlete should be treated in there. So it's unfortunate if that's the case.
It's not cheap, man. I mean, you're spending thousands of dollars to go potentially win a few thousand more.
Sure. So let's say first is 10 grand. I don't know how I'm coming up with these numbers, but let's just say first is 10 grand. Brian Shaw's there. He's probably going to get it. So, but even then, some of these guys have sponsors, et cetera, that can that pay for it. But Yeah, let's say you're JF Karan. You didn't go to the Arnold Classic, so your flight, from what I assume, is not paid for. Your stay is not paid for. A flight from Canada to Australia is going to be at least $2,000, I'd assume.
At least, yeah,
And then
I would think.
usually these the hotels are expensive. So let's just say you're going to spend probably minimum $3,500 trip just to go compete. And he got, what do you end up getting? Fourth place, third place,
Uh, yes, and it looks like
third place.
According to Google, uh, about at least $1,200 if you fly from Calgary, and like 1,400 from Toronto. And I've got no idea where he lives up there. I just know it's Canada, and
Probably Quebec,
it's a
like everyone
huge country.
else.
It's a huge country, so there's no telling.
Sure. And yeah, so that's going to be that much. And then, so, you get, I'd imagine, yeah, you probably get in, roughly $3,000 for third place. So you're probably about breaking even.
And did Dirks qualify for a flight out there? Did Dirks do something to do that to
I
get that? Or
don't know. I know I'm pretty sure he qualified through like the United States Strongman has some shows where you win this one, you
okay,
get to go to this Arnold, etc.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that included in that is helping the athletes get there, but I'm not 100% certain.
Because I mean, I'm sure he was incredibly disappointed by going into it with a torn hamstring
Yeah.
and then tearing his meniscus. So,
Yeah,
because
but
he's
but
gotten strong as hell. You know, we talked about that
yeah, and
before.
he's definitely put on a lot of size as well.
He's freaking huge.
Um, so I'm not trying to rag on the contest. It's just I think it's unfortunate because I feel like there should be you don't want to ever see anything go backwards. Let's put it that way. And
Yeah,
I don't think any of the Arnolds are like they. It seems like as a whole series of expos that they're only growing each year. So I wouldn't get why there'd be less resources.
right.
Or someone can just yell at me because I'm completely wrong. But anyways, I don't
So
want
we
to.
had and then of course we had the video of Colin Wolf dropping the log on his head, which was a bummer because I thought he was going to get that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point in that contest is that they had the two logs, I think 170 kilo and 190 kilo. Both looked really cool. The 190, of course, looks cooler. And they had it set up like you could pick one or the other, but how it differed from the Arnold Classic in Ohio is that you didn't get to try like the lighter one after you went with the heavy one. So very strategic there, and that's something we'll get into because it's something I talked about with a friend who just won California Strongest Man because they had the similar setup. And my advice was to go for the sure points because a lot of people are going to try to overreach, and I think that heavier log was right over their limit, and
Yeah,
then it's gonna screw them because gaining 1 or 2 points compared to the possibility of zeroing them, that's a big gamble. And that's pretty much what Calm Wolf did on that log. He's a great log presser, but he went for a new record, and just didn't get it. And then you end up with a big old zero after that, which is going to affect everything.
he's got a lot of potential though.
Oh, for
He's
sure.
definitely
He won the
and he
truck pull.
yeah, and he seems like he trains pretty freaking smart.
Yeah, he has a good article that he put up on Starting Strongman. That's very it's very, you can tell there's thought into it on how he trains, and it's a good way. But he even said as much, in that miss, the video of him dropping the log. He's like, yeah, I wanted an Australian record and kind of go for it, and I took a chance and it didn't work out, and that's part of competing as well.
Yep.
Because it could have been big points, but that's how it goes. And I think beating Brian Shaw in a truck pull of any sort, this one didn't have like a lead rope, but that's always going to be an accomplishment. And I think the other thing to talk about is Adam Dirks pulling what, like 380 kilos stiff leg because he doesn't
with a
have.
torn hamstring
Yeah.
and a torn meniscus.
Yeah, so that's definitely impressive.
He's a damn savage.
Yeah.
There's no question of that.
So I think that's about it with the Arnold Australia.
Yeah, and then we've got the big one. Well, probably the biggest European. Probably let's go. Let's say probably the third biggest competition of the year. Probably up there.
Yeah,
Europe's strongest man.
Europe's Strongest Man has definitely molded itself over the years. I think it won't like I think it died down. I think it even missed a year at some point a couple years ago. And as soon as pretty much since like Darren Sadler and everyone kind of took the reins back over of it, it's just gained popularity more and more year by year, and now you could almost argue it's the biggest contest of the year in a way because it's going to be uh, in a stadium with 11,000 people.
Number of people, certainly it is.
And
Yeah.
and that they're buying tickets specifically for that versus the Arnold. Is just a lot of people do go there specifically for a strongman, but it's not. It's part of a huge expo with a lot of other stuff going on.
You get people in the crowd that are like, "What is this? What are they lifting there?" Where Europe's strongest man, everyone knows. Oh, they're doing the Stones next. Because they bought tickets for it just for that.
Yeah, and they know each of the athletes. So
Yeah.
I think you're right in the sense that it is probably the third biggest contest of the year, but you could definitely argue that it's kind of like the premiere as far as how a show is put on and everything. I'd love to see a strongman contest be and how
Probably
it's presented.
the best one.
Probably, and it's how it's presented. Yeah, probably the
Yep.
best. Some of the others the Ultimate Strongman stuff with Glenn Ross is doing similar stuff over there. In that same kind of making it like very with a spectacle and an event for showcasing it. And Britain's has done the same, but yeah, it's gonna. I don't think there's a full events list out for it yet for Europe's, that is.
My guess is that they're going to have a max axle, right?
Well, we know
Given
there's a max axle. There's
because they're going for the record.
Yeah, there's the one of the things that helped it grow in popularity was hosting it along with the World Deadlift Championships. But 500 kilos happened. I don't think it's hard to build up from there, and I think Eddie needs a break from going after that so he can put his focus on how they keep hyping it. His last two remaining titles he seeks, Europe's and Worlds. So no max deadlift this year. The returning champ, Big Laws, is coming back. Terry Holland's.
Hold on, who is Laws? that was a question on Facebook. Who is this? Was it like who is this Laws guy?
He said I think yeah, like it was like talking about the deadlift for reps and like who do you think's gonna do well, and they're like, but yeah, that Big Laws guy, I don't know because I never heard of him. I'm like, well, he only won it last year, so
yeah.
But yeah, Lawrence Chalet, of England, Terry Hollands, Mark Felix, Vititas Lawless, Matthias Kilkowski, Hapdor Bjornsson, Konstantin Janasha, who I think it'll be interesting to see what he does after his Worlds performance, because I think he was supposed to be at like the Arnold and stuff, but
Has he done anything since Worlds?
I don't know.
I haven't heard of him doing anything.
I've seen him listed in a couple of contests, but then not seen him at them, so I don't know.
He was supposed to go to the Cavs.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've seen him listed a lot of places and then not. So it'd be interesting. Eddie Hall, Mateus Belsak of Slovenia, Graham Hicks, Dimitar Savatinov of Bulgaria, and just added Rafael, quote, Godzilla Gordziak of, I think he was from Germany? Something I don't remember, but I don't know anything about him. They put some photo up, so he might be replacing someone. So it'd be unfortunate if he's replacing someone like Janasha, etc., or not. Maybe he's the next Janasha that comes out of nowhere. We don't know. But the Giants Live put up a photo of him, and it was interesting. They're like, "Look at this new. We found the next, whatever. How's he gonna do compared to everyone else?" And it was like a very blurry. It looked like when you find like old photos on Google, and it wasn't. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. So this guy really is underground. If that's the best photo you could find of him.
They just
Um,
have a sketch.
yeah, just about. So we have they've announced 3 events so far. I'm sure I could find out the others, but in the 20 minutes of show prep I was able to do, this is as good as it gets. Going off their Facebook page is a deadlift for reps, 362.5 kilograms for
And
reps.
we already talked about this. Who do you pick for that?
Um, I think Eddie will get it,
Yeah.
and that's just shy of 800 pounds, 797. So they should just make it 363, huh?
Well, we're the only ones that care about pounds over here.
That's true. 11,000 people that bought tickets don't care. So
No, they're like, what is that? Pounds? No, it's just kilos.
I think Eddie will take it. I think he'll be exhausted afterwards because probably I think something around 12 reps.
That's the number I'd pick. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. What I do is I talk to Mike privately about this stuff, and then I say it before he does, so then I sound smart.
We just texted a bunch the other day. We saw that thing come up, and I was like, I'd agree about Eddie for 12, and then
Yeah.
Thor will push it pretty good.
Yeah, I think of course Mark Felix is always really good at reps, but I think getting towards 800 pounds is at that upper um, point where that's a little hard to rep. Like where I think like it's hard to like beat the endurance in Mark Felix's back with something like a 700-pound deadlift.
Yeah, because he can, his best pull. Not is it 920? 9?
Something like that.
About 900, 920. So but he can rep a very high percentage of his max.
Mm-hmm.
But that just might be maybe just a little too high.
Yeah.
If it was like 730, he might even be in contention to win that.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. We'll see though. I could be way off.
yeah, that's exactly my thought. Of course, Big Laws, Lawrence Chalet, I think is underrated and
Hmm.
underappreciated, as we can tell from Facebook comments when discussing this stuff.
People don't know him. Yeah.
But a lot of people do.
Yeah. Most
Um,
of the people in Europe are all about laws, especially
yeah,
in the UK.
sure. And then, yeah, I think Janasha has a hell of a deadlift.
Yep.
I think, yeah, I don't know. I think that, but that's in half Thor. I think I think people will be. I think I'm going to be surprised by what half Thor does, as he seems to. Are people going to finally stop this? Like half Thor needs to build his static strength thing,
I really
like
hope so.
like it's 3 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he just hit 3 reps on the heavy log at the Arnold. I
Yeah,
mean,
he
his static strength is pretty damn good.
he won the heavy log at the Arnold. He
Yep.
tied Eddie Hall in the at Worlds in the circus barbell clean and press, and I think and I think his endurance is pretty good for heavy deadlifts like this. So I wouldn't be shocked if he even wins the event. I don't.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't either.
So Max Axel, something we have not seen
Woo!
in a long
Max.
time at this level. An event I personally hate, but still interested to see it. The world record is still held by Zydrunas Savickas, who he said it so long ago that there's no video of it, and
Greg Fister's did he write it out in a stone? Did he carve it into a stone when Z said it?
it's actually on an Iron Mind article. But
Awesome.
but there's like just a picture of him doing that. Like that's back like when we used to. There was like it wasn't super important to get all these videos out here, and where everyone was hyped up for it. But yeah, he set that. Fun fact about that: who was second in that same contest? I think it was like a SCL contest.
Shaw? No.
Lawrence Chalet
Ah.
set the still standing British max axle record at that event.
And what's Z's record then?
Oh, is it
Two.
215?
It's somewhere between 210 and 215, I think.
Yeah, I
And I
think
feel like
it's
Shaw has hit around there years ago.
yeah, I think it's 215. Um and then Lawrence's is like 205, I think. But I'd have to double check that. Of course I could just look that up, but what are you going to do? So I think that's an interesting note. And what everyone fails to think about on this event is what, Mike? What's the key to the
The
max
cl-
axle clean and
the clean,
press? Exactly.
the clean, yeah,
Yeah, I think just about everyone in this field is probably good enough to put 215 over their head out of the rack.
yeah.
But cleaning a fixed axle is a chore.
And it doesn't. This particular axle, at least the one Thor's been training with, what's the diameter on that? And the one that I guess Terry Hollins, had used it the other day, and it doesn't look like quite as thick. Maybe it's just because they're so huge. I don't know.
Are you trying to say that it's
No,
1.9, not a full 2 inch?
no, that does look too.
It probably is.
Okay, maybe Thor. Maybe the one Thor's been training with just looks a little bit thinner.
Yeah, metal's a little more expensive in Iceland.
And then again, Thor is just a giant, so it is kind of hard to tell.
That is true, but I think, Eddie has, it seems to be training smart for this, adding about 10 kilos a week, getting used to the clean, and his clean. It seems like his shoulder mobility, getting that transfer over, getting his elbows under, is actually improved.
Yeah.
As he's went. So, and he's worked up to 200 kilos. I'd be shocked if there's another training video out with anything heavier this close. But
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. It looks like the silver axle that Thor uses. That one is a little bit thinner, but I think the black one with the wheels on the end of it, that looks like a regular axle.
yeah,
Where Thor hit 182 kg a couple weeks ago.
yeah. Yeah, and that's a big difference between. I don't know if it's gonna be that big a difference for someone the size of Thor with
Probably
hands
not.
his size and grip if he's training on a slightly smaller axle. But for people like us or the average competitor, it can be a big difference.
I really don't want to see a bicep tear on that man. It's just but it's unfortunately it's a very real possibility with that weight.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's hard to imagine that there isn't going to be someone that's bitten, but let's just let's hope not. But do you think anyone's actually going to surpass 215 for a world record, or that it will need to win the events or get big points?
You know what? I think Eddie Hall can. I think Thor can too. I think either of them. And I don't know what Graham Hicks hit recently, but Graham Hicks, if he could clean it, I think he certainly could press it. I mean, he's already back to hitting like a 212 log.
Yeah, I think Thor's clean looks really good.
Yep.
Um, I think it's going to be the first event. Hopefully, I think that would be good. The problem with it, so people will be, somewhat fresh for it. So I think Eddie definitely can. I could see him getting up to like a 215, 216, and getting that clean and getting it like right to where he just has to get his elbows under and just can't quite. Just
Yeah.
from fatigue of taking the prior, doing 160, then 180, then 200, or then 210, or however it's going to go.
What do you think about Thor?
I think
Thor's
Thor
fun.
has a good clean.
Yeah.
He seems, he's. I definitely think he can clean over the weight, and then you just have to see if he can press it over his head again after all those attempts. Changes things a lot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count out Laws. He is, he's very explosive. But yeah, so I think I'd say those are the top three.
Mhm.
With a couple others, of course. I don't know what Lawless's extent of his injuries are. And
Yeah, I don't know.
Kilkowski, he's super explosive. So
Right.
we
Who
really
knows?
don't know. I haven't seen like any axle videos of him doing them
Doesn't even
anywhere, but
doesn't even bother Continental cleaning it. Just freaking power cleans it and
I
throws it
mean,
overhead real quick. It's
yeah,
possible.
you see how like that like 300 and whatever dumbbell he did at the record breakers, like just how quick it flies off his shoulders to overhead. Like if he gets any sort of bar over his, to his shoulders, with his leg drive, it's hard to imagine that he couldn't, put some
Right.
huge weights over his head. But again, he had some sort of quad issue at the Arnold Australia. This is in like a week, so it's hard to say.
And then we only got one. We only know about one more event, huh?
Yeah, but then we can kind of assume on the other ones.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got a Flintstone style car walk, which means it's probably that same silver Volkswagen Beetle, which is a nice setup. The same event that pretty much ruined it.
Thor's.
You want to look at it, either allowed Lawrence Chalet to win because he had such a good performance, or took prevented Thor from becoming 3-time in a row champion because he had such a poor performance on the car walk last year. So either way you want to look at it. So I think that'll be a very interesting event. Terry Holland's very good at any sort of yoke or car walk. Lawrence Chalet, of course, holds the world record. I think Eddie Hall has really improved his super yoke. Of course, a car is slightly different than that, but
Yeah.
we will see. I know he was just like half a second off of Laws at the Ultimate Strongman World Championships at Britain's, in the super yoke. So he's definitely made huge improvements there if he can hang with Laws on that.
Who arguably is the best at it.
Yeah, hard to, I mean, he has the world record in this event, so it's hard to argue with that. Kilkowski just beat, like we said, Brian on a really heavy yoke at the Arnold Australia. So we will see. What do you think? So there's 3 events. There's probably going to be 5 events.
I would say frame or formers and then stones.
Definitely going to be stones. We know that.
Yeah.
We don't know that, but
Good. It's great for a show, and they love seeing it. So
yeah, they always.
I would think stones. Stones for a max would be crazy.
I think it'll be a series with the barrels where they run in between them like usual,
which is
I'd
awesome
imagine.
looking.
So I'm going to say there's not going to be a frame or any sort of like farmer's carry.
Okay.
I think that's hard when you have dislocated fingers. There's at Britain's there was like a front hold, which Eddie Hall did really well at. I think that could be and that's been at Europe's in the past, some sort of front hold.
Sword or something.
Yeah, some sort of like sandbag medley has been at those shows in the past. I think some sort of medley would be possible. I'm gonna think it's gonna be something like that.
Medley'd be cool. I'd like to see a medley as opposed to a front hold. But then again, it's going to be a really heavy day, so they might do a front hold just to give them a bit of a break, if you will.
I'm not even saying specifically a front hold, but just something along that vein of you're not like not a traditional moving event. I mean, a Hercules hold would be really cool, but I doubt
that's exactly what I was thinking.
I doubt we'll see that either.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to set that up, and Hercules hold with a car would be sweet.
Yeah,
with the Volkswagens,
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Wow, we really talked a long time about all of this stuff.
Like an hour, very nearly.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. Kalle Beck here. As said at the end of this podcast, we did not expect to talk that long about everything. So I know at the beginning it was mentioned that there's, we're going to talk about how to pick your first contest or picking contests in general. We took a break and did another recording, and that'll be the next podcast. Might release that one later in the week as a bonus episode, or because we got a lot of interviews coming up, so probably going to have 2 podcasts this week. And since I just said it, that's how it's going to be. And of course, right after this podcast, I also learned what all of the events are for Europe's Strongest Man, and that's going to be a truck pull the day before in the town, then in the stadium, the max, a Poland's axle, deadlift, 797, the car walk, and then the ones that we weren't sure of was a tire flip into a chain drag. And then what we were pretty sure was going to happen was stone. So that one that we just talked about for 10 minutes, saying if it would be cool if it was a Husfeld, etc., is going to be a tire flip into a chain drag. Interesting event, very cardio intensive, very old school kind of strongman event. And you got to like Hafthor's chances in this. Haven't seen a tire flip very recently in like a major strongman contest like that though, so pretty cool. Excited to see what's going to happen this weekend. Of course, it's streaming on Flow Elite. Going to check that out, do a little write-up, and hopefully a watch thread on the forum. You can download the Starting Strongman app to follow along. Just go, if you're already on your phone, go in the iTunes Store or Google Play, etc., search Starting Strongman and download the app. If you want to follow proven programming for the sport of strongman at just $15 a month, go to strongmanprogram.com and use the code STRONGTALK to bring that down to $10 a month. You'll get programming delivered right to your phone, and that'll help you. If you want more specific programming, like one-on-one, tailored to exactly you, we can do that as well between our coaches like Mike Battolino and myself at strongmancoach.com. Of course, give us a 5-star rating and review. Really appreciate everyone listening. Got some great guests coming up. And you can support the store by shopping on Amazon. Go to amazon.startingstrongman.com when you do all of your shopping. And that's the easiest way because it's stuff that you're probably going to buy anyways. And I don't even have to sell you on it. So have a good rest of your week, and probably have a bonus episode out on Thursday. These always come out on Tuesday, so look for that about how to prepare for a contest, your first contest, and answering a lot of questions about competing in general.